Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Hope and Carter get back together, but his terrible Daphne secret could end it all. According to the Bold and the Beautiful teasers, Hope Logan and Carter Walton will get back together, but all could be ruined by his terrible Daphne Rose secret. Daphne will make a commitment to be the woman Carter needs as the week of May 19th to 23rd gets underway. After hearing Hope pick Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, Carter is having trouble, but he is overlooking some important details. Hope wanted to make the most of their last time together, which is why she said she wanted a future with Liam. Liam has a tumor in his brain. Since Liam has a brain tumor that will eventually kill him, he would much prefer see her and Carter reunite. Liam encouraged Hope to make amends with Carter since he is the one who will truly be there to offer her the life she deserves. Hope appears willing to follow Liam's counsel and secretly still has feelings for Carter. The issue is that before Hope can give an explanation, Carter might have an affair with Daphne. While Hope is out making amends with Steffi Forrester, it appears that Carter and Daphne may carry out the crime in his loft. Hope will meet with Carter later to provide an update on some important news. First, since Steffi is going to offer her a new position, Hope might inform Carter that she would be returning to Forrester Creations. Hope might, however, also disclose Liam's inoperable brain mass. Maybe Hope will acknowledge that Liam's terminal diagnosis truly shocked her and that she doesn't want any secrets between them. Carter might feel terrible about misinterpreting the situation and suddenly see the conversation he overheard from a different angle. Carter might attempt to ignore what transpired with Daphne when Hope declares her love for him and says she's ready for a new chapter in her life. It appears like Carter will just welcome this second opportunity to start a life with Hope and keep his sexy liaison with Daphne a secret. That sounds a lot like Carter and Hope, as B&B spoilers indicate that one broken couple had a lovely reunion. Hope's return to Forrester will excite Carter, who will also be relieved to have her back in his personal life. Sadly, Carter might have to be concerned that Daphne might reveal what transpired between them. Even if Daphne says she's willing to remain silent, can we really trust her? According to previews on The Bold and the Beautiful, Carter might ruin things by concealing his passionate rendezvous with Daphne. Watch to see when that secret blows up. Justin's surprising romance, Daphne's new victim in view? According to spoilers and updates for The Bold and the Beautiful, Daphne Rose seems to be completely enamored with Carter Walton. However, it appears that the soap opera is leading Carter to Hope Logan. What does this mean for Daphne's future? Who will be Daphne's next target? Who is next on the Nose's list of potential romantic partners? Could this result in an unexpected romance and a compelling soap opera couple? Daphne has always been outspoken about her emotions for Carter. She was only a supporting player at Forrester Creations when the Parisian perfumer came, so stay tuned as we explore the possibilities. Daphne was pulled to her target while doing Steffi Forrester Finnegan's, Jacqueline McInnes Wood, bidding. Daphne seems to be getting more and more enamored with him. The more he runs, the more she pursues him. The textbook definition of obsession is that her yearning for Carter increases as he becomes more elusive. As Liam passes away, he and Hope get closer. Liam Spencer is currently dealing with the devastating news of an incurable brain tumor. He seems to be primarily concerned with obtaining forgiveness and serenity for himself and his loved ones. There are indications that Steffi would soon extend an invitation to Hope to return to Forrester Creations, and Liam has already persuaded the two to put aside their disagreements. Furthermore, Liam is pushing Hope to get back in touch with Carter because he thinks she will need someone to help her, and he seems adamant that it should be Carter. The possibility of a reunion by the end of the week has been alluded to. Or is it a bridge reunion? Ridge Forrester and Brooke Logan might still be the couple under investigation. But, especially in light of Liam's rising pressure, it seems more and more like Hope and Carter are the ones to keep an eye on. The concept of Harder has not been well received by fans because it was not properly built up and appeared to come out of nowhere. However, the soap opera has already used the acquisition of Forrester Creations to deepen Carter and Hope's bond. It appears that their reunion will be made possible by Liam's passing. Justin Barber, the new obsession of Daphne? What effects would Carter and Hope's reconciliation have on Daphne? Although she already has a perfume line, it is shallow. thus Daphne would need a fresh plot. Will Spencer, Electra Forrester, and Zend Forrester Dominguez's role in pressuring the Nose to release a new collection may be justified by this. Daphne would have an excuse to stay in Los Angeles because of this, but what about her romantic future? Could Justin Barber be a better fit for Daphne even if he hasn't been spotted recently? Watch closely because it seems like Justin and Daphne's chemistry could be far more intense than Carter's. The friendship between Steffi and Hope won't last long. Although they may be experiencing a shared sense of sadness at the moment, this emotion will pass. The friendship between Hope and Steffi won't last long. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope Logan and Steffi Forrester's friendship won't endure for very long. For the benefit of Liam Spencer, who is reportedly dying of a brain tumor, they are currently putting aside their 10-year enmity. Even though they have a history of not getting along, both women do share children with him and want the best for their kids. The two women even embraced and reconciled during the most recent episode of The Bold and the Beautiful. Hope apologized for the disastrous takeover, and Steffi welcomed her back to Forrester Creations. This is precisely what Liam wants to see. This is how it ought to have been from the beginning. At last, Steffi and Hope are on good terms and are even hoping for a miraculous recovery for Liam. However, how long will this positive mood last? Fans of B&B want to know that. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, what will happen to Hope and Steffi next? There's a significant probability Steffi may reconsider letting the fashion designer rejoin her company the moment she realizes Liam will be getting closer to Hope. Ultimately, Steffi's affection for Liam is equal to Hope's affection for him. Each of these women have a history of battling hard for a man they each deem to be their true love. Unfortunately, he is now dying. Hope and Steffi will also have a new point of contention because of the drama and tension surrounding Liam's eligibility for the contentious medical procedure that could save his life. Dr. Grace Buckingham deals the kind of medical blow that reduces futures to flimsy hypotheticals. Daphne starts a very personal next chapter in her life, and Hope finds herself returning to a reunion that neither time nor circumstance could stop. Daphne now completely enters her own spotlight after at first being viewed as only a wild-card love interest or an elegant diversion due to her presence in Los Angeles. Daphne begins this new chapter with clarity, a little heartache, and a renewed determination to make choices on her own terms. She is no longer the shadow in someone else's love triangle. She was emotionally exposed by her recent involvement with Carter Walton, particularly after hearing rumors about Hope and Carter's ongoing relationship. Daphne, who always maintains her composure on the surface, has always been more than just elegant heels and well-proportioned cheekbones. She has experienced genuine grief, and she is no stranger to reinventing herself given her history of broken engagements and career changes in Paris. More than merely a career move, her decision to establish herself in Los Angeles, not for a guy, but for her future, is symbolized when she comes into Il Giardino and begs Deacon for a position, not as a favor but as a chance to prove herself in a new role as a creative consultant for events. Meanwhile, when Dr. Grace Buckingham summons the Spencer family to a gloomy emergency meeting, the emotional reality of the week hits hard. Over the past few months, she has been closely monitoring Liam's condition, and while there had been some hope, particularly following the last round of clinical treatment, the most recent scans reveal a more gloomy picture. Dr. Buckingham, surrounded by Hope, Bill, and Steffi, breaks the news that nobody wanted to hear. Liam's tumor has not only returned, but it has also spread to a part of the brain that regulates emotions and cognitive function. There aren't many options for treatment, and the only one is a risky procedure with no assurance of success. The room is paralyzed for a time. Hope automatically reaches for Liam's hand, Steffi clutches the armrest of her chair, and Bill clenches his teeth. They are brought back to reality by Dr. Buckingham's gentle yet stern voice, which reminds them that they must be ready for every scenario, including the one that nobody wants to confront. Along with Hope, who must now deal with the dual heartbreak of witnessing her co-parent and lifelong connection deteriorate while simultaneously shielding their children from the truth for as long as possible, it's a gut punch for Liam, who has long taken pride in being the emotional rock for the people he loves. Hope is pulled back toward a center she believed she had lost as these heartbreaking revelations reverberate throughout Forrester and beyond. The week's emotional focal point is her reunion, not only with Liam but also with herself. Hope ultimately lets herself acknowledge that her heart wants what it wants after weeks of avoiding her emotions, dealing with rumors that she was involved with Carter, and battling her remorse over past choices. However, this reunion isn't based on naive love or romantic illusions. Motherhood, loss, and her own sense of self have molded this more grounded version of hope. As she sits next to Liam in his hospital room, she assures him that although she has no idea what the future will bring, she is here for him totally and entirely. When their fingers entwine, the burden of past errors and the prognosis momentarily vanishes into something sacred, serenity. But there are challenges associated with such peace. Carter discreetly distances himself from Hope after learning of Liam's most recent diagnosis from Ridge during a talk in the corridor. Though deeply wounded, his heart understands that loving sometimes requires letting go. He doesn't launch accusations or make a big show of leaving. Rather, he sends Hope a brief but heartfelt message wishing her well and promising to be there if her heart ever genuinely finds its way to him without any shadows. In the meantime, Zend, who has also been licking his wounds following yet another rupture with Paris, runs across Daphne, who is now adamant about starting over in Los Angeles. Even though neither of them dares label their casual flirtation a date, the electricity between them is obvious and soon uncovers shared wounds, possibly marking a fresh beginning for each of them. As the week comes to an end, Brooke finds Hope sobbing silently in the cabin as Liam is sleeping next to her. With her maternal instincts in full force, Brooke lovingly envelopes Hope in her arms while saying that sometimes picking the imperfect person is more important than choosing the ideal one because they make you feel at home. It's Brooke's reflection on her own illustrious history with Ridge, not just motherly guidance. Hope's tears speak louder than words, even though she doesn't reply much. Steffi also finds herself subtly emotional at Forrester. She has been reminded of the tenuous bond between life and legacy as she has watched Liam drift farther away. Longtime adversaries Hope and she have a startling moment of mutual respect and stillness. They nod, look at each other, and agree that life is too short to harbor old grudges. Dr. Buckingham arrives at Liam's hospital bed in the last seconds of Friday's episode with a fresh set of scans, ones she nearly skipped since she believed the results were predetermined. However, the findings reveal something surprising. A halt in the tumor's progress, not a cure or a miracle, but enough time to re-evaluate options, plan for one more moment, and create one more memory. While Daphne, across town, clinks glasses with Zend and begins a new story of her own, Hope, standing by Liam's side, exhales with cautious hope. It's not about endings this week. It's about twists and turns, both gentle and difficult, and the ones you never anticipate until they completely alter your life. Carter Walton, as he disclosed the most devastating reality of all, Liam's condition is much worse than anyone could have reasonably anticipated. It starts with silent suffering, the kind that simmers for a long time before words are said, and for Hope, the weight of Liam's sudden diagnosis has grown too great to bear on her alone. Hope is devastated when she learns from Dr. Grace Buckingham that Liam's tumor has not only reappeared but is also rapidly growing. The mother of two has spent years balancing the demands of duty and love, devotion and desire, but just now, it's all about survival rather than romance. Liam's, hers, and her kids. Carter comes from this whirlwind of confusion as the dependable presence Hope didn't realize she needed, neither as a lover or a stand-in. Their past is convoluted, filled with missed cues, emotional reversals, and times when they dabbled in true closeness but never quite reached the full truth. However, Hope is drawn to Carter's office late one evening, her eyes already wet, her voice trembling, and her hands shaking as she gets ready to tell him everything, because there's something pure about the way he looks at her now, not with possession, nor with pressure, but with genuine compassion. When Hope enters, Carter, who is mired in legal agreements for Forrester Creations, looks up and realizes right away that something is off. Her well-honed poise is faltering at the edges, and he stands silently, urging her to take a seat before softly inquiring, "What happened?" Then it arrives, not all at once but in bits and pieces, words punctuated by weeping and pauses of incredulity. "Liam, it's worse than we anticipated," she murmurs, her eyes sad. She informs him of the scans, the prognosis, the challenging discussions with the physicians, and the fact that it is impossible to prepare kids for the possibility of losing their father. She acknowledges that despite her best efforts to appear strong in front of Brooke, Ridge, and Steffi, she is actually collapsing on the inside. Every muscle in Carter's body remains motionless as he listens, save for the hand that finds hers and softly curls its fingers to reassure her that she is not alone. Both don't say anything for a while. The stillness is sacred, not awkward. At last, Hope raises her head and declares, "I'm not sure what I should do." Carter responds, "You don't have to do it all alone," in a tone more composed than she believes she deserves, to the statement, "I feel like I'm running out of ways to be strong. I'm present." This overture isn't romantic. It's not the start of a big confession or a significant change in direction toward a new partnership. Far more significant is what Carter provides at that precise moment: presence, assistance, compassion without conditions. And Hope, so accustomed to becoming someone else's need, Liam's savior, Thomas's salvation, Brooke's mirror, finally lets out a breath. For the first time in days, she lets herself cry, really cry, not into a pillow or behind closed doors, but in front of someone who understands her suffering and doesn't attempt to make it better, just makes room for it. Carter's eyes tear up when she describes the exchange with Liam, when he confided in her that he was afraid of dying and leaving the children fatherless. He says softly, "He's a good man. And you're doing everything you can." Hope acknowledges the guilt that has been bothering her, the regrets, the what-ifs, and the internal turmoil of not knowing if she should be letting go or holding on tighter. She even shares with him something she hasn't shared with anyone else. Liam requested her to think about re-establishing the family one last time for the children, a last remembrance of their time together, a dying desire that carries with it all the emotional ramifications of their complex love story. For a brief time, Carter's face darkens, not out of jealousy, but out of empathy. He understands what it's like to love someone who is someone else's property. He understands the pain of being passed over and the question of whether he is just a solace in the wake of mayhem. Carter is unique, though, in that he does not turn his suffering into a weapon. Rather, he inquires, "What are your desires?" Hope hesitates since she hasn't been asked that question. Everyone's attention has been on Liam's desires, the children's needs, and Steffi's expectations. However, Carter's query causes her to pause and consider. At last, she says, "I don't know." Carter agrees and says, "I just want to do the right thing by everyone and I don't want to lose Liam. Then I'll be there for you no matter what that looks like. I will not obstruct you." Their calm, leisurely chat lasts into the night. They discuss anxiety, grief, and the peculiar calm that occasionally follows bad news. Carter talks on his personal loss, including the death of his mother and how he continued to go to work every day because it was easier to be distracted than to deal with heartache. For once, Hope listens without feeling compelled to return to comfort. It is reciprocal. It's getting better. The crisp Los Angeles air braces them both as Carter takes her to her car as the clock strikes midnight. Carter smiles softly as she turns to him before leaving, saying, "Thank you, for being here, for not asking me to be anything other than what I am right now." "Hope, you don't need to thank me. You have consistently been more than sufficient." Hope experiences fatigue as she drives home, but this time it feels more like floating toward the surface than drowning. She still doesn't know everything. She has no idea how long Liam has left. She is unsure about whether she will be able to fulfill his last request and what that will even entail for her own emotional future. However, she is aware that she is not alone, which is crucial in a world full of lovely turmoil. Carter, meantime, goes back to his office, takes a seat at his desk, and looks out the window. He is not naive. He is aware that any optimism he may have had for a future with optimism is fading. However, he is also aware that he accomplished something significant tonight. Not as a rebound or a stand-in, but as a friend, he was there when someone needed him most. And that's sufficient for now. Hope Logan tells Carter Walton a revelation that could change the dynamics of the complex world of Logan, Forrester, and Spencer. Hope and Carter share a modest yet impactful moment at the start of the week. Hope finds herself emotionally lost in the wake of Liam Spencer's deteriorating health, caught between the burden of her past and the dubious prospects of her future. Hope invites Carter to meet her at the cabin as he follows up with her in the hopes of providing support and possibly re-establishing their relationship after weeks of hazy boundaries and unsaid tension. What Carter first thinks will be a straightforward report on Liam swiftly devolves into something much more profound, an emotional outburst that includes a revelation that not only completely shocks Carter but also compels them to face their true desires and feelings that they have been feigning to ignore. Sitting by the fireplace with eyes full of exhaustion and a certain resolute vulnerability, Hope inhales deeply before telling Carter that she has been living in denial about both her own emotional needs and Liam's prognosis. She acknowledges that she feels accountable for the happiness of her children, Brooke's pride, Steffi's stability, and Liam's hope. However, she somehow lost sight of her goals in the midst of everything. Carter, who is clearly upset, listens softly, not sure if this is a farewell or a declaration of love. Hope then reveals the shocking news that she is expecting a child. Silence descends on the room. The moment's strange weight is emphasized by the lone sound, the distant chirp of birds beyond the window. Carter looks at her, trying to make sense of everything, until Hope says something he hadn't ventured to suspect: the baby is his. Carter is taken aback by the news, not because he is unprepared to be a father, but rather because he had just started to feel that his role in Hope's life was shifting from foundational to transitory and transitional. Only a few days prior, he had heard talks and saw indications that Hope would emotionally reconnect with Liam, motivated by remorse, nostalgia, or just the attraction of their shared past. Now, however, everything is different. As the reality of fatherhood, and the prospect of something genuine with Hope, sets in, Carter, who is typically the calm one, starts to show signs of emotion. Hope sobs as she admits that she wasn't sure she could trust her feelings anymore when he asks her why she held back from telling him. Now that this life-altering reality is out, she realizes she can't avoid it anymore. She was afraid of hurting Carter by promising him a relationship based on suffering rather than desire. Meanwhile, Los Angeles starts to feel the impacts. The first person to notice that Hope has changed significantly is Brooke. Later in the week, Brooke, the inquisitive mother with a sixth instinct for romantic disaster, confronts Hope and encourages her to open up after her daughter has been quieter and more aloof than usual. Despite her initial resistance, Hope finally opens up about the pregnancy, Carter, and her confusion. Surprisingly, Brooke doesn't blow up. Rather than concentrating on what is convenient or expected, she encourages Hope to concentrate on what makes her feel safe and seen. Hope is appreciative but reeling from this infrequent display of maternal insight. In another scene, Liam is still struggling with his prognosis without knowing Hope's shocking news. Despite his best efforts to remain strong for his family, Finn discreetly takes Steffi aside in the middle of the week to talk about palliative choices that could provide solace in the event that treatment proves to be ineffective. Although Steffi is unaware of Hope's pregnancy at this point, viewers can sense the storm building as she struggles with her own internal conflict between her own family and Liam. There will undoubtedly be repercussions for which no one is entirely ready when that reality is revealed, which it will. Carter tries to keep the news quiet at Forrester Creations until he and Hope have had time to think it over, but secrets are never safe for long in the B&B industry. When Carter skips a design review without giving a reason, Zend observes that he is preoccupied during meetings. Eventually, it is Katie who confronts Carter and demands explanations. He doesn't elaborate, but the expression in his eyes informs her that this is a personal matter and not just about job or stress. Quite intimate. Carter and Hope reunite on Thursday's episode, but this time they are emotionally more solid. Carter tells Hope that he wants to give it his best after spending the day before strolling along the beach and thinking back on his own romantic blunders, from Quinn to Paris and the broken hope of finding true love. He wants to raise their child together, but he doesn't want to be her second option or her rebound. There is no denying the sincerity in his voice. Between thankfulness and worry, Hope acknowledges that she is afraid of falling back into old habits, of raising a child in a challenging circumstance, and of losing her identity in a relationship that the outside world won't comprehend. She is hopeful, though. She is hopeful that perhaps this time, the world is allowing her to start over, not with Liam, but with someone fresh, reliable, and who has always supported her. The emotional foundation for a new chapter in the B&B world is established in Friday's episode, which concludes the week. With a gentle montage, the episode closes with Hope standing in her backyard, staring at the sunset with her hand on her belly, Carter at his apartment, staring at a tiny onesie he bought that afternoon, Liam in his hospital bed, blind to the fact that the woman he still loves is getting ready for a future in which he might not be involved, and Steffi looking out the Cliff House window, feeling as though the world is about to change beneath their feet. The slow, steady development of a plot that promises to test allegiances, redefine relationships, and show what sort of love persists when the limelight fades and real life begins is how May 19th to 23rd comes to a close, not with explosive disputes or dramatic revelations.